Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Christie Garcia, and we're going to be talking about her book, Your Ego is Showing, How Ego Management Unlocks Authentic Confidence and Meaningful Success. Christie, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book. Where can people find you?
Thank you, Tim, for having me. You can absolutely find me at LinkedIn under Christie Garcia or Mindful Choice Coaching. And you can also visit the website, mindfulchoiceacademy.com.
Excellent. Christie, thank you so much for coming on. So, a book about ego. So what was the inspiration behind that?
I've been doing ego work for the last 15 years, 16 years now. And it is a topic that needs to be discussed. We live in a world that everybody is fast moving, unconsciously going through the motions, which is what our ego is, the unconscious brain. So it was time to write it. I won't lie that AI probably had a little bit to do with it and forced me to put my pen to paper. But I'm excited that it's out. It's a great book. It's more of a manual type book to help people really walk through what is that unconscious impact that you're creating in the world, what leadership is serving you, what leadership is not, and how can you show up and be, really maximize your success as the boss, friend, parent, sibling, spouse, partner, and every other role that we all play on a daily basis.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was, for me, I'd not read a book like this. I've read a lot of leadership books.
I love hearing that, by the way.
Sorry?
I said, I love hearing that. That was my whole thing. We don't need another just leadership book.
Yeah, we don't. And that was my point. We don't need just another leadership book. For me, it was something that, I never thought, it's one of those where you go, I never thought about that. And for me, that was a really important thing, that you're rather than you sit and let the book wash over you, what you're doing is that you're actually sitting there and closing the book and going, yeah, okay, right, So my questions. In the intro to your book, you mentioned that you often don't realize when your ego is running the show. Mm-hmm. What's the personal aha moment or turning point in your life that has made you realize your ego was showing, inspiring you to write the book?
There's been several. I think the one in the book talks about my fall, 30-foot fall that I had when I was about 30.
Yes.
And that was definitely life-changing. One of those moments, it could have gone way worse. And I think I didn't even realize the terminology about the ego at that point. I had started coaching and I started doing my own, journey in self-awareness, but I wasn't aware of this idea of the ego yet. And after my fall, I got very curious. What was this driver in me that was absolutely insane? I fell 30 feet.
Explain to people what happened on the fall.
Yeah. So after I fell, it was a morning, 9 a.m., getting ready to go to work, walking my dog, got locked out. And in San Francisco, we would crawl down our fire escape and crawl through our kitchen window. Very safe. Not a good idea. Don't try that at home. And I ended up walking into the manhole and fell 3 feet or 30 feet, I mean. And so once I kind of came to after knocking myself out, my brain was just crazy. It moves fast, it thinks fast, it acts fast. And so I was like, okay, total Grey's Anatomy, fingers are moving, toes are moving. I'm safe. I'm good. Paramedics show up. I was in medical sales actually. So I knew all the hospitals and told them exactly where I wanted to go and they refused. And so I was very angry about this. So we had about a 25-minute ambulance ride and I did not have time for this. When I got to the hospital, it was one of those moments where I think I disappointed the entire ER staff because they were a bunch of residents that thought they were getting a crumbled girl who fell 30 feet. And I'm just telling them to hustle up, but I got to go because I've got a party to plan that evening. And they all thought I was a lunatic. At that moment, I just thought I was, busy. And I finally, 2 weeks later, after I got released, everything was good. For some, amazing reason in the world, I had 5 stitches and a couple bones that needed to be adjusted by a chiropractor. And that was all that happened. And 2 weeks later, it was really the emotional release that came with this that was life-changing. I called my most expensive cry with my coach. She asked, how am I? I told her what happened. It was right around Thanksgiving that it happened. And so she asked again, how are you? I said, I'm fine. Stop asking me that. And the third time she asked me, I just lost it. And that's when I was really worried, to be honest. I had never cried like that. I'd never experienced that kind of deep emotion, and it terrified me. I think from that moment forward, though, I was so curious about it. Like, what was that? Where did that come from? Why have I never cried? You know, I had this whole routine that I would once a month sit in front of the TV and watch a chick flick and start crying and eat ice cream. And that was like my release, but it was like happy cries, happy tears, controlled. And, you know, come to find out, as I started to really look into what that was, I learned about this ego, the unconscious brain and mindset that really forces us to do things out of reaction. You know, 95% of the time, every single one of us is unconsciously going through the motions. We're not thinking about what we're doing. We're just doing what we maybe have always done, what our belief systems believe we should do. And so it's not always bad. You know, I always say the ego is both our strengths and our weaknesses. It makes us very successful. It makes us fail hard. And so when we can learn where is the balance of the ego, where are we using our strengths at 33% and not overusing them where they start to sabotage us, that's really where we start to truly live with personal freedom, with balance, with real fulfillment. At that time, I would say I was happy. I was living a good life. I was, you know, I loved my job. I loved my friends. I loved my apartment. I loved traveling the world. But I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't have that meaningful joy and success that lived within inside me. It was always chasing more. I had to have more. And that's that ego that I really wanted to teach people how to calm and put at bay.
Most self-help advice tells us to kill or crush your ego. You advocate for ego management instead. Why is trying to eliminate the ego a losing battle? And what does healthy management actually look like?
Well, if you're trying to kill the ego, you're making the ego bad and wrong. And the reality is it's not bad or wrong. It makes us human. It actually protects us. It was designed at a young age that kept us safe. Unfortunately, as we start to get older, if we don't learn to manage it, it's still keeping us safe, but it's keeping the wrong people out. And so we start to overuse it. It's responsible for our biggest gifts. You know, if you look at all the different ego types, there's 3 different ones. They all have gifts. The Complier, it's where we love hard. We we care and we're compassionate and we take care of other people. We prioritize people. Then you have your Protector, which is all about our values and our belief systems and doing the right thing even when it's hard, holding our integrity. And then the Controller is all about results, getting to the finish line, winning, having passion, having drive, having charisma, really rallying the troops to get on board to do amazing things. So you need the gifts of all 3 egos. And unfortunately, what happens is we typically have 1 or 2 dominant egos. When we can start to recognize which third one we're missing, we can balance them out. And that's really the gift of this book, is to teach people which egos are you living by, which one are you overusing, and how can you start to balance it out so you're not, working and burning all, ends of the candle because you think that someone's going to come take your job, or because you're just not good enough yet, or there's more to accomplish, or you just didn't get enough done today, or that you are over committing and over giving to other people and you forgot who you are along the way. So you aren't in touch with yourself at all. Or maybe you have this short fuse that you can't control your emotions because everything is so black and white, and it's really hard to grasp how to just stay calm in the chaos. That is where the ego gets out of control. That's where it hurts us. And unfortunately, in the world we live in right now, again, technology, change, chaos, differences, all these things really fuel the ego to be even more unconscious, because we're even more robotic. We go through the motions more often because we're stressed out, because we're overwhelmed. So we just start doing. I call it you're trying to control to feel in control, and we start overcommitting, overdoing ourselves, that we forget those meaningful things. We fill our schedule with stuff instead of meaning.
You talk a lot about authentic confidence versus ego-driven bravado. For someone watching who considers themselves highly confident, What are some hidden red flags that are their confidence might actually just be an ego defense mechanism?
I love this question because as a controller, that is one of my go-tos. One of the gifts of a controller ego is that we can put on a show. We can walk in, we fake it till we make it. We can have the worst day, and the second we walk into a room with someone in there or get on the phone, our voice changed, our energy changed, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, we're on the show. Unfortunately, when we walk out of that, we go back to our slump. And so when you start to really think, no, I'm good, I'm great, you have to stop and ask yourself, I am good and great, but where can I be better? And that's where the ego never wants us to stop and land for too long. Because if we start asking those deeper questions, then we start to shine light on where our weaknesses are. As a controller, it's not okay to shine light. And I would even say the protector and complier as well. If we shine light on these weaknesses, then that means we're not good enough. And that validates everything the ego has us fueled on. It wants us to be fueled on, we're not good enough. We're not likable. We aren't right. We have no worth or value. And so we continue to chase these hidden ghosts from our old stories. You know, someone told us we weren't good enough in 5th grade. Someone told us, you know, we weren't lovable in junior high. Someone told us this in high school or in college. And now these are the stories we're trying to prove ourselves to. And when we can stop and really get curious there, that's when we start to have our power back. And we start to realize, oh, I'm good. I'm good enough today. Yes, there's always more tomorrow. Yes, there is always something I can improve. Yes, there is always somebody I can help, but I am good enough today. And I can start over tomorrow. And that's really what I love about ego management. It doesn't make anybody wrong. It just gives you the power to recognize and be more intentional.
We all have different ways of our ego manifests when we feel threatened or stressed. Can you walk us through a couple of the most common ego archetypes you see in high achievers and how someone can identify theirs?
Yes. So there's 3 ego types. Everybody I've ever coached, which are thousands of people, have all fallen into 1 or 2 of them. So if you're thinking, oh, these aren't me, you got to shine your light on yourself a little bit more and ask your friends and your family and your community, because everybody sees them but you. But the 3 ego types are the complier. The complier is the people-driven person. This is the one that is motivated by being liked. And so they're kind, they're caring, they overgive, they overshare, they love hard. Unfortunately, what happens is when they start to overgive all of that, they start to be resentful. They'll give, and someone will take, and eventually they'll snap, and now they're passive aggressive because they can't take anymore. They take a lot of things personal. They believe that people are judging them all the time, where really nobody's judging them. It's just their inner critic that's telling them they're not good enough. And so really recognizing, where are you overdriving yourself as a leader? Where are you not making the hard decisions? Where are you holding back on holding someone accountable because you're worried that you're going to upset someone, or you're trying to avoid conflict, or having those hard conversations are just too uncomfortable? That's a complier. The protector is driven by being right. This is, again, where our strong values live. It's black and white because of those strong values. But unfortunately, when we start to be too black and white, it holds us back from having grace, for having flexibility, for seeing things as a different viewpoint. It becomes very attached to a plan. So a lot of times a protector has thought through things. They're very visual. They're very big picture thinkers. They see far ahead in the future. And so their plans are smart. They're methodical. But unfortunately, sometimes they get stuck and they get one direction. And so when you can start to help them pull back, that's where that leader can get unstuck. But usually it can feel very confrontational, it can be very stubborn. It can feel very rigid. And so this is a lot of times where we hear the narcissist term. It comes from the protector typically, because they're trying to protect hard. They don't let people in. There's a big wall around them. They compartmentalize. So this group gets to know this about them. This group gets to know this about them. This group gets to know this about them. Nobody really knows everything about them. And that's the way they like it, because that's safe. And so really helping recognize that, you know what, you're not on your own island, you're not on your own team. And when you can start to play with everybody, you really can collaborate. You can let go of some of that pressure. They put so much pressure on themselves. And so feeling some of that freedom But they do have super strong values and high integrity. That's where all of us get that authentic confidence and integrity from. It's our core belief system is in the protector. Then you've got your controller who is driven. It's motivated by being the best and winning. And once you can really start to hone this in, you've got the charisma, you've got the passion, you've got the drive. But when you're overusing all that, you micromanage, you struggle to delegate, you hold on to things, so you become the VIP player, even if you're the leader. As a leader, you want to build VIP players. You do not want to be the biggest doer of your team. And so lots of burnout, lots of overdrive, lots of believing their own story. And so this is the one that really has to stop and say, wait a second, what's my part in this? Because there's not a lot of ownership, because again, we have to win or be the best. So we have to convince ourselves that, nope, it's not me, it's them.
Excellent, thank you. You write about how the ego loves to be right and loves to win, often at the expense of our relationships. How can leaders or partners catch themselves in the micro moment where they care more about winning an argument than achieving a good outcome?
It's a good question. I think the first thing leaders have to do is learn to slow down, and they have to learn to be present. The ego likes to move fast, think fast, act fast. And when we can slow it down and stop and say, why does this matter to me? Why does this matter to them? Why does this matter to the community or to the customers or the team? And you look at it from a bigger picture, all emotion goes away, and you're able to now look at it from a place of, how do we solve this? How do we get everybody to the finish line? And how do we all win? The ego wants me to win, wants me to be right, wants me to be liked. When we can shift to the we, that's when we start to use the 33%, and we start to elevate everybody, and we become a leader, not a doer. And so really thinking about, where can you take ownership, paying attention to the impact. If you say something in a meeting and everybody's shut down, don't think they're just agreeing with you and they're listening. They've shut down on you, and now call it out and have a restart. Hey guys, I noticed I shut you down. Let me rephrase that. Let me try this again. Where did I lose you? Getting curious about your impact is really the easiest way for a leader to stay in tune with the people around them. Ego management is about bringing humans back to business. It's not talking to them or above them. It's talking with them. It's really bringing everybody along, using the manpower, the brains, the real intelligence that's within your whole team, and bringing the best out of everybody. Because here's the thing, the leader's not the only one that has an ego in the room. Every single person at that table does. And when you can start to manage all the egos and elevate everybody into that we thinking, you have a really strong powerhouse team.
One of the biggest places the ego shows up is in how we handle feedback. When someone gets defensive or shuts down during a critique, what is their ego trying to protect them from, and how do we bypass that reaction?
Yes, this is the biggest question I get all the time, because at the end of the day, our ego gets triggered by feedback. Again, we're hearing, I'm not good enough. Yeah. And so when we can understand the motives of an ego, especially as a leader, we can understand the egos on our team. We can now give feedback that actually helps empower the individual instead of shutting them down. As soon as an ego is triggered, more egos show up. So if one ego's in the room, you're going to get many to follow. So if you learn to manage your own ego and you go in to give feedback with genuine care to improve, without judgment, without opinion, and it just comes to, this is the impact you're creating, this is what I know you're capable of, and you come with that approach, it's a different response than, hey, your team said you're doing this, or I found out you did this. This is wrong. This is not the right thing to do. You need to do better. You just told that ego you are terrible, and now they're going to go into self-sabotage. So they either act out or lash out, or they shut down. And so being able to manage those egos really is the power of this work.
Can a whole company or team have a collective ego? If a leader suspects their company culture is driven by ego rather than authenticity, where do they even begin to dismantle that?
The first thing is self-awareness. Everybody has to take ownership. That's what I love about this work. When you put the whole team through it, you stop any form of blame game. There's no more finger pointing, because you can't. The ego is the ego. We all play a part, whether it's 1% or 99%, we all play a part in everything. And when we can really start to take ownership, that's when everybody can drop their egos. Because if a leader comes in and says, I failed you. I assigned this project to you and I realized I didn't give you enough tools. How can I support you better? Instead of, you messed up this project. Why did you do this? I'm going to have to take it over now and it's your fault. Right? Completely same conversation, different approach.
Yep.
And so that's really where the ego as a team really works well. Plus you create a common language and now everybody's talking the same language. You can literally, I have clients that it's my favorite. I was talking to an HR director the other day and they did this work 6 years ago, but they've had several cohorts go through since then. And she laughs because she's like, this has been 6 years and I still walk down the hall and someone's like, Annie, your protector ego is walking down the hall with a serious face right now. Can you smile? And it's just a funny thing because when we start to think about our traits and our characters, we are doing these things, we don't realize it. We walk into rooms with serious faces. We use tones we're not aware of. And when we're aware of the ego, it's no longer a defensive approach. You now just get to call it out like, hey, your unconscious brain's kicking your butt again. Let's manage it. And everybody gets to laugh and have a giggle and you move on. Yeah. And that's really the fun of this work.
We usually think of the ego as arrogant or loud, but can the ego also manifest as playing small imposter syndrome or playing the victim? How does the ego trick us into staying comfortable? 100%.
And both the quiet ego and the loud aggressive ego have the same motivator, right? It's trying to prove yourself. So the controller protector ego is usually your loud aggressive. Your quiet passive is usually your complier protector. And so if you fall into that complier protector, a lot of times they get the better, there's an image out there that's better, right? They're so nice. Why are we being mean to them? But here's the thing. It's the same flaw. It just isn't as loud and as aggressive. Sometimes it's actually more dangerous for a team because you don't know where they stand. Are they angry? Are they mad? Are they resentful? Are they looking for a job? Are they going to quit on you? Are they the ones stirring up drama in the break room because they didn't like what happened in the meeting? And so just because there's that quiet person sitting in the room, and that is an ego, that's a shutdown. What we're missing from that person, we're not getting their opinions. A lot of times they have very smart opinions, but they're worried they're going to create conflict. They don't feel like, anyone's going to listen to them. They don't think they have value to offer, so they hold back their voice. And so we really want to be able to encourage and invite them to show up. For all the complier protectors out there, if you've been given a seat at the table, take it. This was not, someone didn't donate it to you. You didn't get it because you were a victim. You didn't get it out of charity. You got it because you earned this. And I think that's the biggest thing for that side of the chart when we're working with an ego, with that complier brain, that they just, don't have the confidence to speak up. It's really giving them the freedom to show up. Be you, use your voice, have your power. And it is so cool to watch that transformation. It's one of my favorite things to do is at graduation, get those compliers to speak their truth, show the world who they are. And they're usually the loudest and the proudest, which is awesome.
Christie Garcia, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book, Your Ego is Showing, How Ego Management Unlocks Authentic Confidence and Meaningful Success. So if I wanted to buy a copy of this, where would I need to go?
You can go to all major bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the places. You can also go to my website, mindfulchoiceacademy.com/book, and that'll take you to some direct links as well. So yeah, go out and get your copy. If you want some bulk orders for your teams, you can get it at the Porchlight website as well.
Excellent. Christie, so where can we find information about you?
Visit me at LinkedIn as well for Christie or Mindful Choice Coaching. And then also mindfulchoiceacademy.com. There's a direct link to reach out to me, get on my calendar. Let's visit, let's talk, send me an email. I would love to connect with anybody who's interested in this conversation and see how I can support you.
Thank you so much for coming on and thank you for the book. And thank you for coming and talking about and sharing all your expertise as well.
Thank you, Tim, for having me. It's